Getting back to the home theater builder series, in this video I'm talking about cables, what I use and why I chose them. So cables for audio and video are one of those things that people get very worked up about because you have such a crazy spectrum of price and perceived value. I mean, you're talking ultimately about a couple feet of wire that essentially can be anywhere from $5 to $5,000 or more. When I started tinkering in home theater, cables were a lot more involved. We had analog with component video and analog audio. Fast forward to today though, and we're connecting less cables overall with our devices, and in many cases we're dealing with just digital signals now. Early on too, I was spending a lot more on cables than I do today for things like tributaries, silver, component video, and so on, under a feeling that it made some substantial difference. Although I'll never live down the blind test that I failed between Trib Silver and some simple no-brand stuff for video quality that my wife and a friend of ours performed on me. It was essentially indistinguishable in the test for me with my complete inability to accurately guess the tributaries over the no-brand. And that was 20 years ago when my eyes were undoubtedly keener than they are today. But unless you're talking turntables or specialized audio equipment, we've never had it easier with cabling than HDMI bringing so much together into one simple digital cable. In addition, folks more and more may be opting to even leave their devices connected wirelessly for networks versus hardwired as well. As it is for me, talking about devices like TVs, projectors, receivers, Apple TVs, Kaleidescape, and gaming platforms, most things only take 3 cables anymore. HDMI, Ethernet, as I still always try to run my devices wired, and a power cable. Given I do run separates for my theater audio processing, I do also need interconnects from the preamp to the amp, and then of course speaker wire. But for the most part, I've been buying Monoprice cables for quite some time. A while back, maybe Monoprice might have carried a cheaper inclination or connotation, but I've been consistently happy with the variety of Monoprice branded cables and other accessories that I bought from them. And I mean happy both in terms of price and performance. I don't consider Monoprice to be a value play anymore. They're just a default option for me now in most cases. So what am I using? For general HDMI cables, I've been buying Belkin cables for some time now. They were among the first to be ready with ultra high speed cables capable of hitting HDMI 2.1 speeds before HDMI 2.1 was even fully a thing. Their HDMIs run under $40 for a 6-foot cable, and they've been reliably connecting all my devices and delivering properly on everything up to 18 gigabit per second HDMI, and now beyond that, including my gaming PC using the entire 48 gig pipe. These cables interconnect the source devices behind my TV and all the gear in my rack for the home theater. For longer runs, specifically getting from my rack to the living room TV or from the rack to my projector, I've tried all manner of HDMI over Ethernet, HD base T, and so on. And that stuff was fine in the 1080p days, but it's really challenging in the 4K era. And experience shows just how limited and failure prone that type of stuff is for any types of longer runs. So now when I need to go long, I always go just pure fiber optic HDMI. I have a Monoprice fiber cable for my projector run right now. That one though was a bit hit or miss, honestly, getting a reliable cable a few years ago. Some of them had some sparklies and such, but I ended up getting a good one, and it's driven that connection in 2 years since. When I changed my rack to living room run over to an HDMI fiber cable though, I went with an RUIPRO cable off of Amazon. For about $150 I got a 33-foot cable rated for HDMI 2.1 and 48 gigabit per second, and it has delivered. Never a problem. No sparkles, no dropouts, full bandwidth tested to the full 48 gig using the gaming PC, 444, 12-bit color, 100 FPS. It's worked perfect. And so when the time comes to run a new cable to the projector from my rack, or any other long run in my house for that matter, I'll be immediately purchasing the same or whatever current RUIPRO model exists of the same cable. Regarding Ethernet, I'm just Monoprice all the way. My house was wired back in 2013, so it has a combo of a whole lot of Cat5e and Cat6 running through the walls, but for the local Ethernet connections, I just buy Monoprice of the desired length. I do try to color code a little bit, and since most HDMI and other cables are black, I've opted for green Ethernet cables at the moment everywhere. Just makes them easier to work with and easier to see. For power, I do buy replacement cables where applicable versus just using whatever comes in the box, but not for quality reasons. Particularly in my rack, most devices only need short power runs because I have the long Wattbox plug extenders going up each side of the rack system. So buying shorter power cables really cleans things up versus having 6 foot of power cable rolled up and hanging there for each device. And for all those power cables, can you guess? I just go Monoprice. They have a ton of connectors, length, and gauge options to satisfy pretty much every connection that I might need or you might need. And I can certainly say that I've not noticed anything for better or for worse using the Monoprice for power versus anything else. Again, it's a decision more about cable management and rack cleanliness. It's not about power cable performance. For wiring audio interconnects, I prefer XLR cables if you can use them, and again, I use Monoprice here too. Specifically, in my rack is the Premier series right now. My Marantz preamp connects to the eMotiva amp entirely with Monoprice XLRs. They provide a variety of benefits over a regular analog cable. I think less prone to interference and generally cost less too. I'd love nothing more than to even be using XLRs to get from my preamp to my subs in the theater room, but unfortunately the REL subs I have lack XLR connectors. Yeah. The only other cabling that I use in my install course then is speaker wire. And once again, a long time ago I was in for some crazier Tributaries, silver speaker cable, really thick super stuff, but nowadays I'm more reasonable and simply went Monoprice for the theater. It's good quality cable, pure copper, well priced, easy to work with and pull, and not so overwhelmingly large that it doesn't fit in my somewhat unique cable runs for the theater. I'll be talking about that in a future video for sure. I also did opt to use Monoprice gold-plated banana plugs for the speaker wire connections on both the amplifier side and the speaker sides, just for easy tinkering and changing. It's just much easier to work with than bare wire. Another thing about Monoprice to note is that over the last few years, they're really turning into more of a full-service home theater supplier. They now even make branded amps and all kinds of other equipment. More and more items are being released under the Monolith banner, and it's really quality stuff. While writing this video, for example, I was looking through the product set and saw the awesome looking braided Monolith XLR cables, 30 bucks for 1 meter. Started to drool a little bit for a generally unneeded upgrade. We'll see. So you can't overlook the fact that cables are a fun part of our systems. They look sweet. Really cool braided colored cables that stand out, add a definitive coolness factor to an install. Cabling and cable management absolutely makes or breaks a rack, as well as a custom built PC and so on. So have some fun, spend a ton if you really want to, but be aware of really what you're buying and why. Are you paying a lot of extra money because you perceive and you feel it's worth some performance? Or you just want the looks or the coloring? Are you buying cables specifically because they allow for specific routings or other dynamics, or is it just a value play? So like other aspects in this builder series, cables are one of the things that can kind of get out of control, so set your budget and just meet your goals accordingly. And if you have any questions or you have some good cable suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching and check back for more. For now, I think I need to go order some Monolith XLRs. My wife will love my replacing perfectly working cables with new cooler looking ones.